I stopped trying to grow my pothos as big as possible because the amount of effort that it took to do this did not match my level of happiness from getting huge leaves. To get massive leaves as fast as possible on a pothos, you basically need a moss pole. That's something with a closed back with an open or partially open front with moss inside. The plant grows up the moss pole with damp moss inside, and as it grows, it consistently roots and anchors itself into the pole. But you also need a ton of light. But what I don't think people understand is what kind of massive undertaking a moss pole can be, even if you do it the right way.
Hi, my name is Ann Caddick, and I've been growing this golden pothos for just over 2 years now. I have to water the plant daily, as I live in pretty low humidity and the moss pole dries out a little fast. But I only do large maintenance once every 3 to 6 months when the plant outgrows the pole and I need to chop and extend. I have 3 main lights on the plant. The first is an overhead light, which is a Soltech Aspect 40 watt. The next is a front light, which is a Barina T10. The last is a side light, which is a LBW dual head grow light that I got from Amazon. Moss poles can really transform your plant, and it can take your plant from a juvenile to a mature plant, which is really exciting. I love making moss poles myself, as I'm able to control the width and height of them, as well as just make them whenever I need without ordering them. I always have all the materials on hand and can make emergency moss poles or even more moss poles whenever necessary.
Last year I finally stopped messing around with moss poles, and my pothos did come off the poles with really large leaves. They sized up so quickly, and once I took them off the moss poles and transitioned them onto these beyond belief climbing supports, they still kept sizing up because I give them a ton of light from my south windows. It was great. I was happy. Until I had to throw away nearly all of my plants and my pothos got cut down and treated with some heavy insecticides. And while I tried to manage all of my plants being bagged up and seriously downsizing my entire collection, I realized that I actually liked growing pothos more as a vine than I did on climbing poles. I have this neon pothos that grows on the shelf behind me. I have this Manjula pothos that I got from Jamestown Milk in Toronto. Shout out Julia Wu Cabbagetown on Instagram. This regular jade pothos on this terrible Coco Coir pole. And finally, I've just converted all my Marble Queen pothos to regular pots. The leaf size is pretty immediately shrinking, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with multiple stems in the same pot. I'm okay with not having to worry every time I make a cut. And I like being able to share cuttings quickly and easily with friends. Having pothos in pots like this supports my lifestyle much better than they ever did when they were on climbing poles. And that's something you need to consider for yourself.
Hi there, my name is Melissa and I'm Plants by Melissa on YouTube. I used to have a ton of plants on moss poles, 37 to be exact, and I quit because I was no longer looking forward to caring for the poles anymore. I had too many. I was tired of chopping them. I was tired of them going completely dry and hydrophobic on me. I watered them twice a week and I could not keep up with it anymore. It's been a couple months now since I completely removed all of the moss poles, and it's been so nice. I can't tell you how much it's helped me mentally coming in here and watering my plants. It used to take me all day to try and get through watering all of my moss poles, and now I just come in and water my plants and I don't have to worry about that. It is so nice. It's done so much for my mental health, honestly, and I don't miss them at all. Growth changes that I've noticed since I've quit moss poles, honestly, there hasn't been a lot of changes. A lot of the plants you see behind me were taken off recently, and I'm still getting some decent sized leaves with fenestrations, so they're doing it very well. I definitely recommend Coco Coir poles. You don't have to water them. Plants will still adhere to it and climb. You can just use some Velcro or a piece of string and tie the plant around it. You could use a garden stake, which I am using a lot now too. You could use an empty pole without any moss in it. I've done that several times. You could use a wood plank, the wall. You can literally attach a plant to anything and it'll climb.
The aerial roots on a pothos will stick to just about any surface, anchoring the plant in place. And sometimes they stick too much to the pole. Even if you take the easy way out with less fuss and less maintenance, getting a climbing pole isn't just clear sailing, especially when it comes to taking top cuttings of the plant.
Hey guys, TechPlant here. I've been trying to grow giant pothos for a couple years now, and I've had multiple different series where I've learned a lot of different things as I've done the process. Currently they are doing pretty well. They're all sort of maintaining sizes. However, it's been sort of a roller coaster as they've matured where I've lost size and regained size. So it's been a little different and a mixed bag, but for the most part it's been pretty fun. Some of the major issues I've had with them is just keeping up with the growth. If you're not paying attention to your plants enough and they start to exceed the upper heights and they start to hang, they start to revert, and you can quickly lose that progress you've been waiting so long for. The other thing that I run into as well is I still have to keep the plank a little bit humid to really get that good root grab. Even with the planks that I invented, I still find myself wrapping plastic around where the growth point is to really encourage those roots to come out and grip well. Overall though, I think these plants are a ton of fun and it's totally worth trying as long as you're not getting frustrated over it. This plant's been growing for like 3 years in my collection. You can see here it threw out a random variegated leaf, which was pretty exciting for me, even though it hasn't done anything really spectacular in the last year or so. You can see over here too the actual giant pothos race. Since I did that cut without rooting, it really took a lot of damage and took about 5 months to put out a leaf, and it was a lot smaller than I had expected. But overall, I still am having a blast. I was asked if I would do anything differently if I could start all over, and honestly, I'd probably just start more plants. It would give me more opportunity to learn on different mediums, different ways, and just see like what these plants actually do. To me, it doesn't bother me if they get smaller or bigger or whatever happens. I just like to see the process, and that's what excites me most, so I'd probably just start more, honestly.
Figure out what works for your life in terms of plant care. Taking on too many plants that require too much care is the #1 way to burnout. And speaking of plant burnout, check out this video here that I made with my friends. See you next time.